Good afternoon. I'm Superintendent Ron Thiele, and on behalf of the Issaquah School Board and my entire administrative team, I would like to welcome you to our virtual Back to School Town Hall presentation. The 2021 school year will certainly be different and unique from any I have experienced in my 30+ years as a public school educator. Our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Rich Mellish, has pointed out to me that this will be a historic year as we work hard to transform a world-class brick and mortar school system into a world-class remote teaching and learning system. Our goal today is to provide you with information about what to expect as we head into the start of the school year. While it is a unique start to the school year, you can still feel the excitement building around the community in anticipation of the start of school, even as we prepare to teach and learn remotely. Deputy Superintendent Dr. Josh Alme will moderate this presentation as we hear from a number of central office administrators talk about specific issues and questions that we've heard from our community related to the launch of our ISD L.I.V.E. remote learning system. It's my pleasure to introduce longtime ISD Principal, Central Office Administrator, Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Josh Alme. Josh, take it away.
Thank you, Superintendent Thiele. Tonight, you will hear information from a number of different departments in the district and our plans for starting the upcoming school year. We've tried to organize all of this information in a way where it can be most informative to parents based on the questions we've received from our community. Also, know that any and all websites, phone numbers, and email addresses that are mentioned in these presentations tonight are all included in our FAQ section on the district website. For your reference after the meeting, simply go to the district website, www.issaquah.wednet.edu, and click on the FAQ link listed on the front page. Now, with that, let's get started. I'd like to hand the ball over to our Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education, Jody Bongard, who will talk about all things elementary school and the start of the school year in the ISD. Jody, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Alme. I'll start by sharing a little bit about what the school day and schedule will look like for students at the elementary level. Our elementary daily schedule will provide a consistent start to each day for students at all 15 elementary schools throughout the district, as all students will begin their day with a live class meeting with their teacher and classmates. These daily class meetings will support building connections and community within the classroom and gives teachers time to review the schedule for the day and set the tone for learning. It also provides time for the teacher to focus on social emotional aspects of learning as well, which we know at this time is critical. Throughout the school day, all students can expect multiple opportunities to interact with their teachers and their classmates during whole class live lessons. During the live lessons, teachers will provide instruction on the essential learnings in the various content areas, which include reading, writing, math, social studies, and science. Keeping in mind the need to balance screen time, lessons will be short in duration with opportunities for students to work on the concept presented independently offline following the lesson. Some students may be participating in small group instruction with their teacher or support staff during part of that independent work time. In addition to instruction from their classroom teacher, the elementary schedule includes the opportunity for all students to meet live with their PE and music specialist teachers twice a week and once a week with a librarian. At the end of each day, students will come back together again with the teacher and their classmates for closure to the day. This would be a time for students to ask questions that might have come up during the day as they were working on assignments, and for the teacher to review the day's assignments and help students prepare for the following school day. Now, in creating the elementary schedule, we took into account feedback from the community and recommendations from the various work groups that made clear the need for a consistent schedule. However, we also know that not all families will be able to follow the schedule for a variety of reasons. And we know that our youngest learners in particular, for them, family support will be critical to accessing online resources and lessons. To provide access to the learning and flexibility for our families in how students can participate, Teachers will be posting assignments and recording their daily live lessons and uploading them for students and families to access asynchronously when it works best for their family. We've had a number of questions surface regarding remote learning since we made the announcement to start the year in that mode. I want to take a few minutes to share some of the most frequently asked questions at the elementary level. And as Dr. Alme shared, a link to the FAQs can be found on our ISD homepage. Our first question, can parents expect a consistent day for receiving additional resources and links from the teacher? Yes, teachers will send that information home at a standard time each week. Can the district make sure all students have the same lunchtime across levels? Unfortunately, due to the complexity of creating building schedules as well as individual classroom schedules, we won't be able to accommodate that. However, because the elementary schedule allows for independent work time and a combined lunch recess for an hour during the middle of the day, we believe families will be able to flex and find ways that they can adjust their lunchtime so it works best for their family and their children could have lunch together. How many hours can I expect of live instruction per day? It will vary, but students will have multiple opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, to engage live with their teacher daily. Lesson lengths will depend on content and the curriculum area as to whether it's a 15-minute lesson or a 20-minute lesson. So that time could vary. In addition, while whole class learning opportunities will occur every day, small group instruction opportunities with a teacher may vary for individual students over the week. If I chose full remote on the enrollment verification process, can I change my mind and have my student attend school in person when it reopens? Well, depending on when the family decides to rejoin the class list adjustments may have occurred. So keeping the same teacher is not guaranteed. We will work with families, but it is possible that when we receive the request to return to in person, it could be that your child's teacher may change, and it could even be possible that the student could be assigned an Issaquah School District teacher that is not part of their neighborhood school. But again, we will work with families. If I chose to fully withdraw my student from the district and homeschool, will I have access to district materials and resources such as RASKids and Lexia? In order to access district curriculum and materials, the student must be enrolled. We had the opportunity last year to offer and provide free licenses to all students, including home-based or homeschooled students. However, this is no longer the case. The district has purchased Lexia licenses for enrolled ISD students, and unfortunately, it would be a breach of contract to distribute them outside of the district. This is also the case with other programs such as RASKids. However, parents who choose to homeschool do have the option of purchasing their own licenses not associated with the district for both of these programs. My student will be participating in a neighborhood learning pod. Can I request that my student be placed in the same class as the other students in this pod? Well, in the spring, teachers put much care into creating balanced classes that benefit the learners and contain a wide range and variety of students. Parent input at that time was taken about class placement, and teachers considered that in the process. While there may be some movement to the class list between now and the start of school, it is not possible to honor requests for pod groupings, as they could possibly cause an imbalance in classrooms and equity concerns as well. Teaching and learning has provided our teachers with essential learnings and a scope and sequence to follow. So even if students are in different classrooms, content being presented at each grade level should be the same. When is the first day of school for kindergarten students? The first day of school for our incoming kindergarten students is Friday, September 4th. On September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, our kindergarten teachers will conduct Walk Kids Family Connection meetings. This is an opportunity for all kindergarten families to meet with their teacher virtually prior to the start of the school, and for teachers to get to know our incoming kindergarten students and families. Will preschool be offered? The district will not be offering a fee-based preschool program for the 2021 school year. For students who qualify, we will be offering our Early Childhood Education, or ECE, and our Early Childhood Assistance Program, or ECAP, preschool programs. Both of these programs will be conducted remotely until conditions allow for in-person instruction. Will teachers be sending a list of materials needed for at-home learning? Yes, lists of standard materials will be shared by the teacher, and if special materials are needed for lessons, then families will be notified in advance. And you may get notification of this at Meet the Teacher next week or via a classroom newsletter. Will we have opportunities for materials to be distributed, such as math workbooks? Yes, and currently our schools are developing plans for material distribution and will communicate plans to families. You can expect those to happen within the first 2 weeks of school. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Dr. Alme.
Thank you, Jody. I know how excited we are to welcome all of our elementary students to the start of school this coming Tuesday. Next, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director of Middle School Education, Jason Morse, who will talk about our plans around childcare and our plans for middle school students. Jason, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Alme. I appreciate your introduction. As Dr. Alme mentioned, my name is Jason Morse. I am the Executive Director of Middle School Education in the Issaquah School District, and I also supervise our childcare program. Since we were just speaking about education at the elementary setting, I thought I would start my presentation with childcare, as our childcare program will be running for students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade. Some details about our program for childcare are we plan on running approximately 40 students per site at all of our elementary schools. This will allow us to serve approximately 600 students. We have successfully ran childcare in the ISD since the school closure in March and continue to have success with this program, so we're very proud to offer it. We're able to provide childcare during a school closure because the childcare program does not include near the number of students that would normally attend an elementary school in a given day. On any given day, elementary schools run between 500 and maybe as much as 700 or 800 students on any given site. By limiting the number of students that we're serving in our childcare program, we're able to adhere to social distancing and other requirements from the Department of Health, which makes our program run safely. Childcare will be available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. You must sign up, you must register if you would like to access childcare in the Issaquah School District. For information, you can check your elementary school's e-news. There's been an announcement that is going out in elementary e-news, the district e-news, or you can access our school age care before and after school care program from the district website. Simply log on to the district website and under family resources, you'll see a link to our school age care program. If you need care for your kindergarten through 5th grade student, we hope you can join us. Now I'll transition to some FAQs about our middle school program. And I'd like to start off with our newest middle schoolers, and those are our 6th graders. We realize that is an important transition from elementary school to middle school. And so all of our middle schools will be offering an orientation program for our 6th graders called WEB, Where Everyone Belongs. A couple of our schools have already had their WEB orientations. They were very well attended. The rest of our middle schools will be offering their 6th grade WEB orientations Monday in order to be ready for the first day of school. we hope all sixth graders can join, be welcome to the middle school level, and learn about how to be successful at middle school. If you've seen in our publications, the middle school schedule will be a block schedule where students will access 3 periods per day on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Wednesdays, we have a social emotional learning period with the remainder of the day open for students to complete work, to work asynchronously, or to access their teachers for more help if they need it. We believe this schedule will help our middle schoolers transition and stay focused on classroom learning and to better manage their coursework. It's kind of a cross between an elementary school where you have one teacher primarily all day long and a high school where you have multiple classes in a day. We believe that by having 3 classes a day, middle schoolers will be able to manage that to their benefit. Another question that I've been asked many times is, how do I prepare my student for online learning? Please make sure your student is able to view their family access schedule prior to the first day of school. Log on to Family Access and print out your schedule. Middle school schedules will be available on Friday morning of this week. So Friday the 28th. Yes, Friday is the 28th. Go ahead and log on and get your middle school schedule so you know who your teachers are. I recommend my style of learning, print off your daily schedule and maybe write in your teachers' names in the blocks where those classes take place. Another question I've been receiving is school supplies. As you can imagine, our need for school supplies are much different in a remote setting than they would be in a traditional brick and mortar system. I strongly recommend that you have pens, paper, pencils, maybe a highlighter available for your students to start the school year. Staff will provide a more specified school supply list as the school year gets going. The biggest, most important thing that you can provide for your student is technology to start the school year. Please make sure your students can log into Family Access, get their schedule, make sure they know how to log into Canvas and access their coursework. And if you need assistance with technology, please reach out to the district and we'll help you access technology so all of our students can access learning. The first several days in middle school will be focused on learning how to learn in Canvas, which is our learning management system. Any academic activities will be supported through materials provided on Canvas. Most of our books are online, but we still plan to distribute books and materials such as musical instruments shortly after the start of the school year. The most important thing, in my opinion, that you can do to prepare your student for online learning is to make sure your student knows their class schedule, can log into Canvas, and has an appropriate, quiet setting where they can learn daily from a remote setting. If you have any questions, our school websites have lots of information regarding our online learning management system. They have information regarding the school day, and our district website, FAQs, and other information are available. Thank you. Dr. Almi?
Thank you, Jason. Next, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director of High School Education, Donna Hood. Tonight, Donna will talk about our plans for high school students, testing, grading, athletics, and activities. Donna, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Almi. I'm excited to be here and share with you some of the work that's been happening in the high school world. This summer, our teacher leaders met in content area groups under the guidance of Mr. Mellish's teaching and learning directors and began working on revisions to scopes and sequences that made sense given what they were able to accomplish in the spring and what they knew they wanted to accomplish this school year. So those revised scopes and sequences are published and are being reviewed by our teachers as they come back to work right now, even as we speak, and they are putting them into action. As a result of some of these revisions, you can imagine some of our more hands-on coursework, things like career tech ed classes, music, science. They've had to really think creatively about how to provide those experiences to students in this new environment. There's some really unique things happening. Our career tech ed teachers are looking at ways to modify and adapt labs and provide kits to students for distribution at our school sites that they might take home so that they could have something akin to what they would have experienced in a brick and mortar situation. In addition, our music teachers are looking at new software. Some of you might have seen our virtual graduations last spring and gotten a taste of what our music teachers were able to do with students. It was really quite something and quite remarkable what they were able to accomplish. And I'm really looking forward to what they will do in this environment this fall. And our science teachers, of course, are looking at ways to modify and adapt labs as well. They want to provide some access to critical thinking, of course, and some hands-on experience, but we have to manage the risk of those situations and not require, obviously, staff supervision in a student's home. That just can't be done in the same way that we would do it in brick and mortar. But they are working those things out. And again, this is happening with the guidance of our teaching and learning experts. I wanted to speak a little bit too about the schedule. Our secondary scheduling work group met this summer, and they worked really hard in a large secondary group, 612, to involve students, certificated and classified staff, district office employees, parents, in really thinking about how to accommodate a new schedule. We had hoped, obviously, that we could maybe be in a hybrid setting, but as that was not adopted by the board, we had to quickly take that input and pivot to what would a remote schedule look like. So the work of that group really influenced the high school schedule. And one of the key things that we heard from kids and from teachers in particular was that long blocks of time in the high school were not necessarily the way they wanted to go. They felt that more frequent meets was pretty important. They wanted the more frequent peer-to-peer contact, the more frequent contact with their teachers. And as you can imagine, we hope that that time and that frequency will allow for teachers to intervene more quickly if a student is stuck with a concept or a task or a skill, and that it will also allow for that routine that our high school students said was so critical. They wanted to be made to stick to their routine, to get up, to know that they had some people to see and some things to do. So we are very, very hopeful that that will accomplish those goals. And there was something about the accountability that I think everybody acknowledged. Knowing that I'm going to see my teacher tomorrow or in 2 days felt significantly different than I won't see my teacher for 4 or 5 days. So we really hope that this rhythm will work to achieve the goals that that group expressed, and we're very excited about it. Attendance is also going to look a little different this year, and it is different K-12. I'm primarily going to speak to the 612 component of it. We are going to be taking attendance when kids attend their classes during regularly published school hours and are following the schedule. And we will also be looking for evidence of asynchronous attendance or attendance outside the regularly published school hours. We have a couple methods that we're going to be gathering that attendance in, and you will see more about this coming out in your school's e-news, and we will be training staff on this as well. So it is going to look a little different this year, and I'm really excited that we're going to be honoring more than one kind of attendance. I think that's going to be a real asset to our community. I also wanted to mention 612, that grading will resume and go back to sort of typical methods of grading that we've seen in the past. So last year, you might remember that some of our emergency rules from OSPI dictated what we could and couldn't do with grading. This year, essentially all the typical forms of grades are back. So our letter grading, PF grading, SU grading are all back. They have returned. Grades 6-12, you'll be seeing those things. As far as state testing, we've been told by OSPI again that we will expect to have 2 rounds of state testing in the high schools this year. We don't yet know what that will look like or exactly when it will happen, and we will keep you posted when we have more information through our usual channels, through our district website, our school websites, robocalls, all of those things that we use, e-news. In the meantime, we have a little information about AP and IB testing. The College Board is planning to offer in-person AP testing in May 2021. Now, they've also indicated they understand if social distancing measures are still in place, it may not look like our typical in-person AP testing. So they do have alternative plans they're working on, and they'll be communicating those to our site coordinators in each of the high schools. This is also similarly true of the IB program. Our IBO organization that governs those activities is communicating with coordinators about their plans should social distancing still be in place at that time. I have a link in the FAQs to some of those websites, and you can go there for more information, but your school e-news will also be a great source of information for you as we get more detail. And last but not least, I want to hit athletics and clubs here. This summer, the Kinko schools met regularly to really look at the guidance coming out from the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association. And the Kinko schools determined it was best, given that King County was still in phase 2 situation, to access the alternative seasons for athletics published by WIAA. So you may have already seen this in your school e-news, and that's great if you have. And if you haven't, you can visit our FAQ page to read more. But we are essentially taking all of the season 1 sports, pushing them into the new season 2, 3, and 4. They're all a little shorter than we would have done in the past, but at least right now, there are 3 possible seasons we could hold. They would begin on December 28th with season 2, then move into 3, and then into 4. There are some off-season athletic opportunities that may become available at the end of September, but again, we have to really watch what phase we're in and whether or not we can safely accommodate those. At this time, I can't say for sure that we'll be able to do that, but we are hoping and aiming for a December 28th season 2 start for athletics. Our clubs are going to be meeting virtually this fall, and our ASB coordinators, our activity coordinators have been working hard to get freshman orientations going virtually. They're very excited to train club advisors and get the virtual club guidelines out to them so they can start meeting with kids. We heard loud and clear that this is an important part of the social and emotional well-being for our high school kids, and we wanted to make sure that they could have that peer interaction and that fun, albeit virtually, but they would get to see some people, hang out with their advisor, and have some experiences that they would have had in our schools in person. So we're super excited for those things to resume in a short time, in the next week or 2. And that's it for high schools. Back to you, Dr. Almy.
Thank you, Donna. Next, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning Services, Rich Mellish. Rich is going to give an overview of our remote learning plan, things such as our common learning management systems, live streaming, curriculum, and other pertinent information. Rich, take it away.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody who has taken the time to attend this town hall. I really appreciate your attention and support for Issaquah schools. So when I look at the questions, the FAQs that have come in around our curriculum and teaching and learning, it comes down to 2 questions that I keep hearing over and over again. How is instruction going to be different than last spring? And what can we expect from remote learning this year? So how is it going to be different this fall? Well, the first key difference is going to be time. We've had time to prepare. The disruption last spring was sudden, and we did not have the time to prepare for that. So now we've taken time to regroup, recommit, and re-engage. We've regrouped by bringing stakeholder groups together, administrative teams, teacher teams, support staff have all been working hard to rethink our approach to remote learning. We've also made new commitments, and we recommitted to the common expectations and commitments. We have committed to providing live instruction. We have committed to maintaining a schedule and a consistent structure for remote learning. We have committed to reestablishing the qualities of teaching and learning that make Issaquah a sought-after school system. We will work to provide that blend of high expectations, along with strategies to address the diverse needs of students and supports to help students overcome their barriers, both social, emotional, and academic. And then we're re-engaging. Our staff have been learning about and training on and trying out new tools and strategies for remote learning. They are preparing to recreate a personal and supportive classroom community and school culture. So time is our first element that I think will be very different. The second key difference between last spring and now is the strategic use of our ISD curriculum and instructional practices. Yes, we are making modifications to our curriculum, and we will have to adapt the delivery of our instructional practices, but we are returning to what we know and do well. Our curriculum has been carefully selected. It's specific to content and age of students, but there are a couple common aspects of instruction that most can expect to experience. These form the foundation of our instruction. They did during in-person instruction, and they will during remote learning. First of all, we have direct and engaging instruction. Our teachers in remote learning are aiming to provide explicit instruction on key concepts and skills through live streamed lessons, pre-recorded lessons, and structured activities. The live lessons will give us the opportunity to actively engage students, to have discourse and discussion, and to use many of the instructional strategies that we use in the classroom to stimulate thinking. Whole class live instructions will tend to be shorter and very focused. After direct instruction, one of our key foundational instructional elements in live and remote instruction is guided practice. Guided practice is the time for teachers to help students develop the academic procedures, thinking, and behaviors that they need to develop the targeted skills and knowledge. This phase of learning is all about giving students the formative feedback and correcting those misconceptions. This will include small group work, may include one-on-one work at times, may include live instruction, as well as guided activities that they do asynchronously. It may include videos that they engage with and interactive software. But that guided practice is an important element of our instructional model. Once they've had that direct instruction and that guided practice, we do move both in live instruction and in remote instruction to independent application. And I will say independent application has been a topic of many questions over the last several months. Our goal is to build students into independent and reflective learners. During in-person learning, we don't always want students depending on their teacher. We help them to learn how to answer questions themselves and seek resources for answering their questions. And during remote learning, we don't want students to be constantly depending on their families. We want them to be able to be as independent as possible. We are not trying to recreate or create homeschooling, but trying to create instruction where students can work and do work independently. During independent application, students will use the routines, behaviors, and skills that they've developed in that direct instruction and guided practice to do their very best work, and then reflect on their work and submit their work for feedback from teachers. Not only do we aspire to prepare students to do this work with a high degree of independence, we depend on the work that they submit back to be their own and reflect their own proficiencies and understandings. If the student work reflects the proficiencies and understandings of their parents or siblings, then it doesn't help the teacher know what the student's instructional needs are. So we really do hope that when we get to that independent work, we get to see what students can do. This will be hard, and especially for our youngest students who are building those new habits to learn independently and have not internalized the routines, they will need some help keeping on task and structuring their day and structuring their learning environment. But we will continue to do our best to help them get those routines for learning that will make them increasingly independent as the year goes on. All right, the third aspect that I think makes learning and teaching different this year than it was in the spring is because we have had time to develop new tools. We have added to and refined the use of the available tools for remote learning. We have added learning management tools. You've all heard by now that Canvas is our secondary learning management system that will help students manage multiple classes in a single platform. We have also settled on the use of Clever, Seesaw, and Office 365 for elementary learning management. Within these tools, students and families should be able to access the information they need to know what to do each day, to keep track of assignments, and to plan their school week. Using more powerful and consistent learning management tools will make a substantial difference in the experience students have with online learning. We've also developed new tools for delivery. We have been building our capacity to deliver instruction in a virtual learning environment with digital and non-digital tools. We will be using Zoom and Teams for live instruction, and we have made sure that we have digital tools to access all of our curriculum. We've also put in plans in place to distribute the printed and physical materials such as textbooks, readers, instructional materials, and other items throughout the year. We didn't have these tools and procedures when school suddenly shut down last year and we were told to stay at home. I think this will make a big difference. And then we also have added some recovery tools. These are tools that will help us to assess and identify and address skill gaps created or deepened by the disruption in schooling. We will use diagnostic assessments in the fall and throughout the year to monitor those skill gaps that could prevent students from accessing our curriculum, and we'll use instructional strategies and sometimes technology to differentiate instruction, to backfill those identified skill gaps, and to provide students scaffolds so they can access our current instruction. These three differences, time to regroup and plan, using our core curriculum and instructional practices for remote learning, and investing in tools for remote learning and recovery, represent a substantial shift from last spring to now. Perhaps the biggest difference, though, will be in sustaining a growth mindset. I am confident that we will deliver, and we will experience many successes this fall and throughout the year. Proactive planning and the hard work of our teachers, leaders, and staff will pay off. I recognize, though, that we are planning for something we've never done and that no public school system has ever done prior to this fall. So some of our best thinking may miss the mark, and we will run into both anticipated and unanticipated roadblocks and challenges. This is not easy work for teachers, and it's not easy for families to support this work. So we will need to monitor what is working and for whom, and what is not working and for whom. Once we identify those problems or have them identified for us, we will need to communicate and engage in collaborative problem solving. We will rely on open and hopefully kind communication and the willingness to collaborate to find a solution. And we will make adjustments. We will need to make adjustments for individuals to help support their learning needs, and we will sometimes have to make course corrections. We may have to change our scope and sequence. We may have to adjust our pacing. We may have to adjust our materials, our instructional strategies, or the ways that we ask students to express their learning. But with this growth mindset, with quality new tools, staying grounded in our curriculum and instructional practices, and a shared commitment to make remote learning an engaging and supportive experience, that will make a difference. Over the weeks to come, I believe in the capacity of our teachers, leaders, and families to reestablish that quality of learning and a strong sense of community that makes ISD a special place to learn. Back to you, Dr. Almi.
Thank you, Rich. Next, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director of Special Services, Dr. Dana Bailey. Dr. Bailey will talk about our plans regarding students in our special services programs. Dr. Bailey, take it away.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Students with disabilities will follow the ISD L.I.V.E. plan. All services on the student's IEP will be delivered remotely following the stated schedule for the school and the program. Students at middle and high school in a co-taught class should expect both their general education and their special education teacher to be present in the class. Students in middle and high school with LRC 1 classes will participate in those classes with a special education teacher following their personal schedule. Elementary students will follow the schedule as communicated by their general education teacher and will receive support in the general education class and in small group sessions with a special education teacher. Students in LRC 2, ACT, and ECE classes will follow the teacher-directed schedule. Related services such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and vision services will be delivered remotely, and these therapeutic specialists will be working with families to individually establish the schedule. IEP and evaluation meetings that were not held last spring, awaiting the chance to meet in person, will need to be held remotely this fall. Families in this situation will receive a call from your student's new case manager to set up an appointment. In some cases, in-person testing is needed to complete these evaluations. If your student needs in-person evaluation or IEP testing, this will be done in the buildings after September 1st. We have crafted a plan to safely test students in person, and if your student is in need of any in-person testing, expect to hear from your special services team. This would also be true for any student who was in the initial evaluation for special education process. If your family started but did not finish this process last spring, expect to be contacted by the special education team to complete the assessment and move forward to a virtual meeting. Any testing that can be done remotely, such as a parent interview, a questionnaire, a video call, etc., will continue to be accomplished remotely. Our Child Find team and Birth to 3 team is ready to evaluate our youngest scholars. If you suspect your student has a disability or is transitioning from a Birth to 3 program, please contact the Birth to 3 team and they will schedule an evaluation. The health and wellness of our special education community, the staff, the students, and their families is a primary goal of the Special Services Department. We encourage you to reach out to your student's case manager for needs you may have as we launch full remote teaching. Needs for assistive technology, training for parents, or behavior supports delivered virtually are certainly possibilities. We want your student and you to be successful as we launch into this new way of learning. To this end, investing time in September to master the technology, acquire additional tools or training, and establish a clear communication path to your student's case manager is essential. Here's to a great start of the year.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Next, I will take the reins for a few minutes and go over two different sets of information, which are information for families new to our district and our plans to distribute technology to students for the upcoming school year. Let's start with information for families that are new to the ISD. One question we've received a lot from families is, how do we find out about dates and details like parent conferences and curriculum night? The very best way to get school-specific information is to sign up for your student's school e-news. You can sign up for building e-news at www.issaquah.wednet.edu/news/e-news. Again, just go to our FAQs and that web address is linked there. In addition, you can always reach out to your individual school buildings by phone or email if the information you're looking for is not included in the e-news or on the school's website. Our individual schools send out information on a regular basis to families via these e-news messages, and it's so important, especially if you're new to the district, to sign up for these as soon as possible if you have not already. You can also reach out to a family partnership liaison. These are district staff members that help families new to the American school system or linguistically diverse families, and they help navigate the American school system. They can be reached at 425-837-7122. Again, know that all of this information, web addresses and phone numbers, is in our FAQs on the district website under families new to the district. Another question we get a lot is, how can we get information in languages other than English? In the Issaquah School District, we've made it a priority that families can get information from both the district website and your student school website in your preferred language. To do this, simply use the Select Language tab at the top right-hand side of the district website. Select the language you speak, and the district website will be translated into your preferred language. You can also translate district e-news into other languages by clicking on the message and then selecting Translate Newsletter in the top right portion of the page. Again, not only is this process outlined in our FAQs on the district website, but we've also included screen caps as to where those links are and while you're navigating different web pages in the FAQs. I can't stress enough the importance of making sure to sign up for e-news both from the district and your student school. Our buildings do a great job keeping parents informed throughout the school year with any and all important information. The second topic I'll cover is our plan for distributing technology for remote learning and the upcoming school year. Our district has been preparing over the past 2 months for a smooth distribution process for the upcoming school year. Not only did we need to get all of the laptops back from last spring to reclone and prepare to get back out to students, we also needed to install class-specific software on certain machines, such as those for students in certain CTE classes. But we also had to be ready for a much higher number of technology that our students needed. Just an example of those numbers, last spring we checked out roughly 3,500 laptops and 300 hotspots to families around the district. In working with our families who requested technology for this coming school year, we will be checking out, at most recent count, over 8,000 laptops and 1,500 hotspots. Our tech department has been working around the clock to prepare all of this hardware to get out to students this week and next. As families completed the online verification process earlier this month, or EVP as we call it, they had an opportunity to let us know if they needed a laptop or a hotspot for the coming school year. Once that process was complete, we worked to notify those families of different pickup options for them to come get those devices. Last week, all families who let us know that they needed specific hardware were sent both a text and an email letting them know of the different pickup opportunities. This week, a final reminder of pickup opportunities was sent out to those families. These pickup times are a little bit different each day, so there are opportunities that will accommodate many different family work schedules. Some earlier in the morning, some later in the day. We also sent out these communications in different languages to families who let us know during the EVP process that English was not their native language. And I'd like to thank our tech and equity departments for working so hard to make sure that this was done for those families. When families come to one of the tech checkout windows, it will be done in a drive-through format where district staff wearing PPE can get equipment to families while they stay in their cars. Families will not need to park and come into any of our buildings. This will significantly speed up the process in getting tech out to families. For families that did not specify during the EVP process that they needed equipment, but learned, for example, once the school year starts, that they do need technology, we have a process for obtaining either a hotspot or a laptop. Simply email or call our tech department to start that process. The email is isdstudenttechhelp@issaquah.wednet.edu, and email them and let them know that you're requesting technology. Or you can call the Student Tech Helpline at 425-837-6371, and an interpreter is available if you need one. Again, this information, email address, phone number, all available on the FAQs on the website. That sums up our information on new family information and tech distribution. And next, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director for Finance and Support Services, Martin Turney, who will talk about food distribution for the upcoming school year. Martin, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Almi. As mentioned, I'm going to speak to you about food distribution during remote learning. I'll reiterate that the information that I'll be talking about is on the FAQ page. We also have links to additional food assistance in our community from there, if you need that. So our program will be a meal pickup from the 3 high schools, Issaquah High, Liberty High, and Skyline High. It will be available for all of our enrolled students. And the way it'll work is Mondays or the first school day of the week from 4 to 6 p.m. You can come and pick up what will be a meal kit. The first pickup will be August 31st, which is Monday. And there's a pre-order system. There's a form out on the website. You can also do a walk-up if you need to do that. And students and or parent or guardian can pick up. The meal kits are going to be a compact package. It will contain 5 days worth of lunches. They're going to be packed for maximum food quality, things like separating items and individual packaging of those items. The menus, if you would like to look at those, they will be posted online as well, the link from the FAQ page. As far as costs, those students that qualify for free are obviously going to have free. Students who are qualified in kindergarten through 3rd grade, those will also be free of charge. Those who qualify for a reduced price in grades 4 through 12, it will be 40 cents per meal or $2 per week in the kit. If you're full pay, that's $3.75 per meal, and that equals $18.75 for a week worth of food. Accounts will be charged when the meals are picked up. You can either use our online system for payment or cash or check on site when you arrive. For safety, I wanted to let you know staff will be following all CDC and health department guidance. That will include mask, gloves, surface cleaning, those type of provisions. And when there's pickup, we're going to have things like one-way lines, social distancing, that no contact. So we're going to keep that as safe as possible during the process. And that's what I had for food, and I will kick it back to Dr. Almi.
Thank you, Martin, for all of your department's work in that area. Next, I'd like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Lisa Heckman, who's going to talk about details around our COVID plans moving forward in the Issaquah School District. Lisa, take it away.
Thanks, Josh. I think it's important to know that our school district is a mirror of what is happening in the greater community, and all of us can play a part in hopefully getting us back to in-person learning if we will all wear a face covering, if we will all observe physical distancing of 6 feet or greater, and continue to practice really good hand hygiene. Everything that I have continued to read and learn about in discussing the COVID-19, those are going to be key pieces that we are going to want to get into the practice now so that when we get to transition back into buildings, there'll be ready habits for us to be able to use. It's probably easiest to think about the various parties that provide us guidance as a series of rings or maybe a series of layers. The local layer is Public Health of Seattle-King County, and they are the jurisdiction, our local health jurisdiction, who is going to provide the best advice for us around when we are going to be able to open and when we might have to then go back into remote learning once we get to have in-person in place. So if you are somebody who is following this, if you take a look at the public health website and look at their dashboards, there's a dashboard that is updated on a daily basis, and there's a dashboard that is updated on a weekly basis. And that's the dashboard that we would be using to follow the Department of Health, the Washington Department of Health. There's your next layer. Their recommendations for when we might be able to return to in-person learning, or some of the guidance that is going to allow us to maybe bring in some smaller groups, or as Donna Hood explained, be able to participate in athletics and be able to participate with our club and activities. So Public Health of Seattle-King County, then it's the Washington Department of Health is the next layer, and they have been able to provide guidance on issues such as what we would be considering in our local jurisdictions or those jurisdictions right next to us. It's interesting to note that the Issaquah School District, over 60% of our staff actually come from outside of the boundaries of Issaquah. And it's important then for us to consider the dashboard on the Department of Health website that talks about those other locales and those counties that are neighboring us, Pierce and Snohomish, to be the two predominant ones. We take a look at items such as the number of cases per 100,000 population, the effective reproduction rate, the transmission rate of the COVID cases, what our hospitalization rates are in the area to try to understand what the stress is in the community, and then how rapidly testing cases can be turned around so that we can have a feel for how rapidly we can respond if we are happening to have a COVID case on one of our campuses. In that particular layer, then beyond the Department of Health, there's then going to be labor and industries as well as OSHA. And those are going to be organizations that have information for us about how we need to interact as employers with our employees, and making sure that our facilities are mitigating any of the risk that we might have of being able to be in person, or having staff work from their classrooms, having our custodians available for cleaning, or as Mr. Attorney talked about, being able to deliver our food services, etc. They have some influence then in the next ring as we look at the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, and they are ones who provide guidance that Public Health of Seattle-King County reference. And it might even go then as wide as the WHO and some of the guidance that they are seeing as they react and interact with countries that are ahead of us on some of their curve mitigation or some of the actions that they have taken in responses to COVID. So it's those various layers. On top of that, we have OSPI that is laid, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, as they have provided guidance around how we should transport students, how and to whom we should have meal service, and what that might mean, and as far as timelines that would allow us to come back in to in-person. We also have the governor's office and the governor's proclamation sort of as another layer of part of the guidance that we have to consider, given he has responsibility for the employee side, but also the education side for our students, and making sure that our general communities are taking care of themselves and are healthy. We've done a lot of reading and watching of the various communities that are ahead of us, other districts that have gone ahead and been able to open schools and have, as a result, had to shut down because of the spike in cases. We've also been watching what's happening at the tertiary level, so the universities and what is going on there, mainly so that we can maybe learn from some of their mitigation practices and be able to learn what we should have in place for things such as personal protective gear or scheduling of classes, or how we're going to have individuals interact with each other from some of the experiences that they have been having. We are fortunate that we have a world-class organization in the University of Washington, and information that they are able to provide, not only us as how we should continue to interact, but what they are providing on a national scale and the advice that they are giving for what it might mean to be in-person education, or what transmission rates mean and how that should influence some of the decision making that we have to do at the district level concerning our own students, our own staff, and this general community. We're also fortunate that we happen to have a board member who is an active physician in the area, Dr. Harlan Gallinger, who is able to share what he is seeing from his experience in his own hospital, and because of our partnership with Swedish and the parents that we have in our community who are physicians or nurses or first responders who have been most willing to share their experiences and the information that they are getting in order to make sure that we have well-rounded information and data in which to make some of our decisions. All of us have fingers crossed as much as you do that we are going to be able to return to some in-person learning this year, and are focusing on some of our next steps in some of our smaller groups and those students who are farthest from educational justice. So keep watching with us on those local dashboards, and continue to practice, again, those face coverings and physical distancing and your healthy hand hygiene, because that's going to help us return to school. Dr. Almi.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, for his second appearance in our presentation tonight, I'd like to reintroduce Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Rich Mellish. He's going to do a virtual demonstration on how a student would access our common learning management systems when they start school next week. Rich, take it away.
Sorry about that. Okay, so there we are. I think we're seeing, so I think the most important thing as we go forward, I happen to have our frequently asked questions page here, where we keep referring to it. Please do come back to this page when you get a chance to read the questions if you haven't had a chance. There are there's quite a bit there. Okay, so I'm going to start us just off on our district webpage, because that is the page where you would launch from. And we have a bunch of information here. We do have our ISD supports here. There are going to continue to add some supports, especially for those elementary families that are looking for ways to support those youngers. We're going to be putting some resources there for you to help, and we'll try to get those out via our e-news as well. But here, the student portal link is right here, right on the front page when we click on students. So for our secondary, we do have the secondary Canvas link here, and we do have our elementary links here. If I go to the secondary links, you'll please notice that our parent accounts, we're working on that. Our ed tech team has been working on getting all of these accounts set up for you. And we also have the login to Canvas right here. What is going to happen is you are going to be getting directions from your school. We have a single login, and you will be able to log in. You'll enter your username here, and you'll enter in your password, and you'll be able to log in Canvas. When you do log into Canvas, I'll go ahead and log in because I do have a couple of courses. You will be able to see your children's courses right here as a parent, or as a student, you'll be able to see your courses right when you come in. You'll be able to see each of your teachers. So our learning management system through the secondary puts all of their teachers in one single place. If I back out of that, in our elementary, this is really important to understand in our elementary, because it has been a point that we're using 3 different tools. I get that can be a little bit confusing at times. Some good reasons for that we've seen is, as we've taught successfully students even as young as kindergarten, that Seesaw can be a really wonderful tool for that kindergartners. I have watched kindergartners myself manage their way through Seesaw. I know it can be done. Clever is going to be our first place to log in. And in this case, I can't model it as well as I can because it is a place where I don't have a student account on that one. But you will be able to log into Clever. It's right here. That's what we'd like people to do first thing every day. That's one way that we can make sure that all students are attending school. So we'll want you to log into Clever each day. And from Clever, what Clever is it's a way to help manage passwords. From Clever, you'll be able to launch into Seesaw, you'll be able to launch into Teams, you'll be able to launch into the other digital tools that we've got for elementary school. Most important thing though is your teacher is going to have a nice little welcoming page for you in Clever. When that student logs in, when your student logs in, there will be a nice little welcome for them, and that will show them how to start their day. Please notice that in both of these pages, there are tutorial videos for parents and for students so that they can get a better view of how to access our learning management system. All right, thank you, Dr. Almy.
Thank you, Rich. And thank you to all members of our district leadership team for sharing this important information as we begin our upcoming school year. This year, no doubt, is a little different than a typical year, but we will continue to navigate these uncharted waters the very best we can and continually communicate these plans with our community. Finally, to wrap up our town hall this evening, I'd like to send it back over to Superintendent Thiele for some final information and closing remarks. Superintendent Thiele, I hand it to you.
Thank you, Dr. Almy. Wow, that is a lot of information that was just presented. Please know that we are recording this and it will be posted as well. And as you've seen and heard many times, we're warehousing all of this information on the district website. So we recognize, much like we'll be teaching your students, your children, to be able to provide the information in multiple ways is good during these COVID times. A big thank you to these central office administrators and really to all the ISD staff who have worked really hard this past summer. It has been definitely not a typical summer in a K-12 school system. All of you have worked so hard gathering information, problem solving, and developing plans for the coming school year. I know that some students have already participated in virtual orientation events, and that over the next few days, many more of you will be meeting your teachers and learning more details about your individual schedules, classes, and expectations. I encourage students and parents to reach out to your teachers and building level staff with questions and thoughts as we all learn how to learn in this virtual setting. Also, make sure to read all of your schools, sign up for and read all of your school's e-news messages as well. I get all of them, and there's been some wonderful information that has been coming out the past several days from our buildings. And I have honestly felt because of those communications, the anxiety level has decreased and the excitement level seems to be going up, which is all very encouraging. We've also established a specific remote learning questions email address. That is at remote.learning@issaquah.wednet.edu. We'll be monitoring that as we continue to update the frequently asked questions. They've been referenced a lot here tonight. It's a great storehouse of information located on the ISD website, where you can also find, as Executive Director Melish pointed out, a lot of other really good information and supports for families and students in the Reopening Schools 2021 tab at the top of the ISD homepage. Of course, this new email address, remote.learning@issaquah.wednet.edu, will also be included in an upcoming e-news message and on that website. In addition, I anticipate future town hall type meetings as we monitor conditions related to COVID-19 in our community, with the hope, as Assistant Superintendent Heckman pointed out, with the hope that the virus is brought under control and we can begin bringing small groups of students back into our schools for some level of in-person instruction, something that we all desperately hope for and want and miss. We miss our students. And then finally, I want to thank our community for the support that you've given us over the years, especially during these challenging pandemic times. I have tremendous faith in the ISD community and believe that if we all remember to treat one another with kindness and give grace during this most unusual time in human history, our students will grow and thrive, and our beautiful community will emerge even stronger. Again, I hope you found this information helpful. Please don't hesitate if you have additional questions, which we're pretty certain some of you will. Do send them in to us through that remote learning at issaquah.webnet.edu. We'll work to get answers posted up on the FAQ page, because we recognize if one of you is asking a question, it's probably a question that many of you have. So again, thank you to my team. We actually we got done faster than we had hoped. So we're learning how to do these town halls. I appreciate the support staff who have helped us put this together as well. And just the hard work that everybody has been doing. We're excited for the start of this new school year. And even though it's going to be very different, and we recognize that, I just have tremendous faith in this community that we are going to step up and do what's right by our students. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful start to the school year. And that will conclude tonight's town hall meeting. Thank you.